Okay, hello everyone and welcome. Just to introduce this event or this book reading event is part of GFest Festival 2015, and let me introduce myself first because most of you won't know who I am. My name is Niranjan Kamatkar and I'm one of the organizers of the festival, and GFest Festival happens every year annually in November. We've been going on 2007 and we do have a number of events happening from 10th, so it started last Monday and going up to 22nd November. I'm really delighted and pleased to have the partnership with Planet London for this tonight's event of authors reading, and I'll hand over to Naima to speak to you.
Hi, just want to quickly say thanks to GFest for the opportunity to be a media partner. We're delighted to be on board, and it was really nice and kind of showed what we could do when Niranjan said we want to do a reading with some authors. Do you know any? I was like, just a few. So that was really nice. And I didn't know at the time when I was connecting them that actually you might recognise my wife is one of the readers, which is purely by chance. And I didn't know that at the time. But also to be able to help with the venue, and obviously finding Titania as a mythical themed festival with a mythical themed bar, it's just nice to be able to make those connections, and we want to do more of those throughout the year as well. So it's brilliant to do this. I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to hand you over to Angela, who's going to introduce all of the authors and start the event.
So my name's Angela Peach and I'm a lesbian fiction author, and I'm just going to explain a little bit about the anthology that we're all going to be reading from and the charity that all of the proceeds are going to. So it was back in about April or May this year that decided to do something for charity, because there was that charity song out. So I thought, yeah, we could do something similar. And the initial plan that I had was to get kind of like a chain story going. So one author would write one chapter, send it to the next, who'd read through it and write their chapter, and then send it on from there. But that was completely impractical for this purpose. So I got in contact with Kiki Archer, and we decided to do a UK-based anthology. So we had a really good, response, even from international authors who are all interested as well. So that's something that we can do further on down the line. The charity that we chose on was Are You Coming Out? And it's basically coming out stories from people who want to share their experiences and their journey with others who are struggling to come out, scared to come out, or just trying to come to terms with their own sexuality. So it helps them, find a kind of feel like they're not on their own, and it also helps families of these people as well, who might need support dealing with their son coming out as gay or the like. So I'm going to hand over to Katie, who's going to read her story, The Waiting Game.
So there's a myth, a modern myth, that when two lesbians meet and fancy each other, they'll fall in love at first sight and move in together on the second date. This story is about challenging that myth a little bit. The Waiting Game. Maggie saw the brunette that night when the usual crowd were meeting at a bar. Nothing out of the ordinary, but the brunette was there as always. Maggie was unconsciously ecstatic to see her, working hard to disguise the feelings so that neither the brunette nor anyone else would notice on the pleasantly warm Wednesday evening in June. The usual crowd had gathered, the cocktail menu on special, threatening risky behaviour later. Maggie was off work for the week, so settled in to let her hair down without having to worry about the morning after suffering. She talked with some friends and went to buy a round of drinks. On her return from the bar, the brunette entered the venue and made a beeline straight for her. Maggie's heart skipped a beat. She took a slow, deep breath to keep it from pulsing too fast. The brunette joined in the casual conversation at the table. Maggie made the tiresome effort to show the right amount of balance, bringing the brunette into the group but paying equal attention to everyone at the table. 7 months before, Maggie had received the knockback message from the brunette. They had both entered a space where something between them had become a real possibility. Maggie had just ended the nightmare of rebound relationships. The brunette, it seemed hopeful for once, had left her difficult and emotionally draining long-term become an emotionally draining long-term relationship. They'd been out at night, bowling with the usual crowd. They'd spent the evening furiously flirting in between turns. It had become such the norm that no one really paid any attention anymore. It was harmless and just reflected the fact that Maggie and the brunette had history, a secret history that the whole of the usual crowd knew about. Towards the end of that night, Maggie had made it clear she intended on more than flirting. They'd already had lunch together that day, one of the many inappropriate activities they shared that only they knew about. Maggie sat patiently listening to how serious the brunette finally was about leaving this time. The brunette had had enough of making the effort to make it work for the previous 2.5 years. Maggie and the brunette were sitting close together on the plastic Super Bowl chairs, and a jolt of electricity hit them both as their thighs quite deliberately brushed up against each other. Maggie drew a breath and said, "I still think of you, you know." The brunette paused and said, "I didn't know that, thank you." The brunette broke away from the gaze first they'd been holding and said, "It's time for us to leave. I just need to use the ladies first." So Maggie put on her coat and scarf and processed what that meant. When the brunette returned, she was already dressed to leave. She turned to Maggie and said, "Thank you for what you said. I really had no idea, but I think we are better as friends." Maggie sagged as though the brunette had taken a safety pin and pierced her heart, but forced a smile and replied, "Yes, okay, your friendship is very important to me." On the way home, Maggie berated herself to the core for the mistake she had made, putting her feelings out there like that. She fidgeted while processing the revelation that if it couldn't happen now, when they were both pretty much single and available, it probably never would. It was the kick up the arse Maggie needed to move on from the past and to downgrade her expectations to fond thoughts of the time the two women had enjoyed together 2 years before, rather than waste her efforts and her life away with the hope of recapturing it. So Maggie thought it only fair to give the brunette equal attention at the bar and ignore the fact that her bones ached for the beautiful woman whenever they were in the same vicinity. The brunette, however, had other plans on that warm June evening. She gracefully, artfully drew Maggie into a conversation for just the two of them. Maggie found it impossible to resist and relinquish her full attention to the brunette, quickly becoming unaware of anyone else around her. Soon it was time to buy more drinks, and Maggie was quick to offer, satisfying their shared passion for cocktails. Those were quickly inhaled and the brunette was next to the bar. This gave Maggie a moment to emerge from her daze and notice the crowd around her. A pretty blonde she had not seen before was chatting loudly and happily to some of the others. Maggie caught the blonde's eye and a smile in the process. She took the opportunity to break from the futile fog where she spent the last hour. Moving to the new table, finding just one space for herself, Maggie seamlessly joined in with the banter. The brunette returned with Maggie's drink in hand and passed it on silently. Maggie relaxed and enjoyed the laughter with the new person and caught herself beginning to flirt and be flirted with. Someone else from the table stood up, and immediately the brunette squeezed in, sitting down next to Maggie, next round of cocktails in hand, demanding Maggie's attention. Maggie did not allow herself to be distracted this time and continued flirting with the blonde. The conversation around the table was full of jokes and laughter. Maggie started to tell a very animated tale, waving her arms about an excited gesture. Coupled with the cool summer's breeze from the open doors, and unbeknown to Maggie, this triggered an uncontrollable sensual awakening in the brunette. The brunette, Christina, breathed in the intoxicating scent of Maggie, who was obliviously telling an elaborate tale of stupidity or bad behaviour. Christina sat back and gazed at Maggie, zoning in and out of listening to the story, all her senses full through vision and aroma. Christina could barely stand the intensity of desire she suddenly felt, and wondered from where it arose. Silly question, she realised. It had always been there ever since the accidental, illicit, exquisitely romantic fling 2.5 years ago. Most of the time, Christina had acclimatised to suppressing the curious feelings and reactions in the belief that she was doing the right thing and continuing to work on the relationship she thought she deserved. In the meantime, Christina and Maggie's friendship had flourished, and the moments of inappropriateness and impropriety were dealt with through humour. Although Christina, in these moments of adulterous humour, winced with pain recalling her second romantic rejection of Maggie. Declaring she thought they were better just as friends, Christina was hiding that she was not yet brave enough to risk such an important and dear friendship through all the drama becoming a couple would bring. Instead, Christina had maintained a safe enough distance from Maggie, safe enough distance from the truth of her feelings, maintaining control of the situation, despite sensing the chemistry every time Maggie walked in the room, and despite knowing Maggie had once, at least, felt the same way. So what exactly made it all rise up to the unsafe surface on this random routine midsummer night? Christina noticed Maggie was finishing her drink and used the opportunity to escape to the bar and away from temptation. Returning with cocktails, she decided to use the only thing that worked in these situations, humour. Awaiting a helpful pause in conversation, Christina seized her chance. "What perfume are you wearing?" she was desperate to know. "Oh, just the new Calvin Klein thing. Why?" Maggie replied. "It's really strong, let me smell." Christina grabbed Maggie's arm and drew in a deep breath. "Oh, let me too," said the blonde, who Christina was finding terribly tiresome. Soon everyone was smelling Maggie's arm and laughing, which would normally have been enough to let Christina start suppressing the feelings again. "Stop waving your arms around when you talk, your perfume's too strong," Christina said. Maggie recalled only dabbing on a little that evening. She'd been excited about all the sexy women sniffing her arm, especially the blonde, who sadly had to leave to make the last train home. Maggie was blocked in and could not get out to give the blonde a hug goodbye or her number. She waved instead and then leaned back, resting her arm on the chair backs either side of her. She realised she'd been drinking strong cocktails all evening and was on the verge of being very drunk. Time to go home, she thought. She stood up and went to grab her purse and turned to Christina, who was leaning back on the chair next to her, also looking like she enjoyed one cocktail too many. "I'm going home," Maggie said, "nearly the last train." "Oh, okay," said Christina, standing up as well. "I'll go with you, I think we can get the same train." "Sure," Maggie replied, thankful for the company on the tedious walk to the station. Saying goodbyes took all its usual time, and other people started to make moves to leave. "Let's hurry," Christina said, rushing them out before they could be joined. "We can probably make the next one." Walking at a pace, Christina asked Maggie what story she had been telling whilst Christina had been buying the drinks. Maggie started to recount. Her arms were quick to become a part of the narrative again. Christina stopped Maggie and walked to stand the other side of her. "What are you doing?" asked Maggie. "The breeze is blowing your perfume downwind, it's really strong." "Sorry, I didn't realise," Maggie said apologetically. "No, it's not that," replied Christina. "I like it."
This is actually your first published work, isn't it?
Yep.
So is it put you off, or has it encouraged you to do more? Have you got anything lined up?
It's definitely encouraged me to do more. I have been working on a novel for a few years, and it's given me some inspiration to get back on that. And there's also some other projects that I'm working on as well. So it's really nice to have a few different creative projects on the go. And also, just want to say, really nice to be alongside some really talented authors as well. It's never seen myself on that platform, so thank you.
Karen, new author of the year from London Planet. Have you got anything in the pipeline? I know you've just released The Knowing.
I'm writing. I'm in the middle of writing sorry, I've got the flu and I don't feel very well, so you just need to bear with me. I'm writing a diary of the life and a year of a overweight night shift lesbian Tesco worker, which is a sort of tragic comedy. And I'm about halfway through that. I've done about 13,000 words, and hopefully I'll be finished by the middle of December. So I'm hoping I can get it out January, February.
And Claire? Number one earlier this week?
It's funny you should ask, actually. Around the room you'll see these on the table. I just released my second novel last week, and it's a story of 9 friends who get together for a university reunion in Devon. 7 lesbians, 2 gay men. There's lots of tension, there's lots of alcohol, there's lots of secrets, lies, sex, so it's a great tale. So if you haven't bought it yet, buy it, it's available from Amazon. But yeah, beyond that, I'm going to be writing a follow-on from my first book, London Calling, and that's, I don't know, that'll be out sometime actually. But that's
I seem to have kind of like a writer's ADHD at the moment, where I keep writing books out and then just like going straight on to another one without actually editing it out. So at the moment, now that the anthology is done, I need to get cracking on releasing a book that I have written. And you've heard a lot about how much trouble I've had with the barbecue scene. So she's been a massive support to me through certain scenes in my next novel.
Angela has written this barbecue scene about 40 times, so if when this book comes out, read the barbecue scene.
And now I've made such a big deal out of it, it's just... But I'm hoping to have that out early next year, so hopefully. Okay, so we're going to go to Karen now, and then after that we'll go and take a quick drink and bag break, I think, and then come back for
Don't
us
smoke,
too.
kids.
So Karen Campbell.
I have the flu, so if I collapse, I'm not faking it. This is a passage from my story, which is in the L is for anthology that Angela was talking about. It's only a passage because I don't want to stand up here for 18 minutes boring you all to death. So basically the girl in the story has had her heart broken, her girlfriend has cheated on her, which just happens to everybody, isn't it? No, just me. Not with current girlfriend that I had, that I know of. Joke. So she's rented a nice 3-bedroom cottage by the beach to get over her broken heart and take herself away from the memories. Okay? She's got the key and she's standing at the door. Everything changes now. A voice within told me, what you thought was real will fade, and what you thought faded will become real. It was not a moment for the faint-hearted, like love isn't. I have a heart made of steel, but the women I've chosen are acid love. I know that I have been worn down, but that ends now as the lock turns and the door opens. Today begins the new me, without someone else to define me. As I walked up the staircase that opened into the sitting room, I caught myself smiling. Already I felt a tiny bit better. Just getting away from the circle that held all the hurt in my life felt liberating, like throwing off a coat made heavy by a bitter rain. I was lighter as I skipped up the stairs, seeing the bedroom doors and not knowing which one was mine. I looked at the keys in my hand and saw I had bedroom 1. It was simplistic and perfect, clean and warm. I dropped my bag and went to open the window, immediately grateful for the shore view I had. I inhaled deeply and smiled again. This was going to be a great holiday. I woke up from my afternoon nap, disorientated with a gentle breeze brushing my face and the cawing of the gulls calling to my ears. It took me a moment to realise where I was, at the place where my heart would be healed, and a small smile grew. I leapt from the bed, not knowing I was full of hope for my future, just knowing that this house was going to be good for me. There was no television or radio to distract me, and it was a welcome relief when I saw I had no signal on my mobile phone. There were well-stocked bookshelves that could keep me occupied on a night after relaxing days of sunshine and swimming. I fell straight asleep that first night with my window open and the moonlight illuminating a trail on the water. I would walk in the moon trail tomorrow. The next morning I made a light breakfast and before long found myself sunbathing on the sand. The heat sapped my energy and I lay soaking up the rays for a while until I forced myself to go for a swim. Walking back to the cottage later, it struck me that I hadn't once thought of my ex. I was having a little self-congratulatory moment when I saw the back of a woman standing at the kitchen sink. She must be a new guest, arriving today when I'd been out. I caught myself checking her out, which couldn't be helped as she had cut off jeans on that barely covered her bum cheeks at the top of her long creamy legs. My hungry eyes devoured them. I coughed to get her attention and she turned, flashing me a brilliant smile, strangling my breath. Her blonde wavy hair bounced off her shoulders and her skin glowed. I became a jellyfish. I felt my jaw slacken as I stared at her ocean blue eyes because I'd never believed in love at first sight. "I'm Perry," she said. I felt an electricity tingle over me at the sound of her voice. "I'm Rosie. Have you just arrived?" I asked. "No," she said. "I've been here for a while." I didn't quite know what to say, so I made my excuses and scampered up to my bedroom where I could catch my breath and slow my thudding heart. My mind raced. I was going to have to share, but I felt confident her thighs would make that bearable. I might even flirt a little, I told myself, feeling naughty. Later on, after several large glasses of wine, the words on the pages of the book I'd picked up had started to blur, and I raised my eyes to see Penny come into the room. I hadn't heard her come down the stairs, and I stared, momentarily mesmerised again by her sheer beauty. She sat herself on the couch next to me and asked me to tell her about myself. So I talked, and I talked, my tongue loosened by wine. I'd forgotten what it was like for a woman to be interested in what I had to say. My ex had never listened, and my voice had grown smaller and smaller until it had existed only in a tiny corner of my mind. I heard words trickle off my tongue to Perry, saw the smile crinkle the corner of her eyes when I made a joke, saw her brows knit together when I became sombre with my sentences. Before I knew it, my bottle was finished and it was time to go to bed. I'd never been this relaxed for a female's company, especially one I was growing more and more attracted to. As I got up reluctantly to head for bed, I asked her what she did. I collect butterflies, she said. My days were spent sunning and swimming, and my evenings were spent chatting with Perry. Although I longed to kiss her more than anything in the world, it was the last thing I would do. Everywhere I went and looked, I was held back by the fear of rejection. It haunted me like a steady, silent terror. I waited for Perry every evening, with the anticipation reserved for a lover. I'd felt this with my ex, but that was a different time, and I'd been different then too. What have you come to escape from? Perry asked me. We all come here to escape something. I told her I'd come to escape my heartbreak. Legend has it, she told me, that if you whisper a wish to a butterfly, then let it go, it will carry that wish and the heavens will grant it. Mostly though she let me talk. She said little, what she said mattered. I opened myself to her like a rose to the morning sun, and I soaked her in. Her eyes held mine when I spoke, and I tingled in a secret place. I began to dread that passage of time that I was helpless to stop. I wanted to slow the hours each evening when I had Perry to myself, so that I could hold my beating heart in both hands and lay it in front of her. I've always given my love away like it's on special offer, like it's something that needs to be gotten rid of. For once, I had a worthy recipient. All my life, I tried to be the one for someone else. I threw myself into a corner, called it compromise. I buried my happiness with a spade because it wasn't important, not compared with what my ex felt. I held my head up high because I was making her life complete and was giving her what she wanted, and she still cheated on me. But what did I feel? What did I feel? I was so fixated on my heart being broken that I hadn't noticed it mend. A little love only takes a little mending. I thought of my ex, Gail. Her name was Gail. I could say it now without an ice-cold knife of torment tearing into me. I saw it in her eyes when the love was gone, but I held on, fearing her rejection. Now that it has been and gone, I am no worse or better off. Her love washed over me as a tepid shower, and I stand out now, naked and brave. I was intact and ready to begin all over again. You see, no matter how hard we try, we can't help but swap heartbreak for love. Love is what wakes us in the morning, having it, the promise of it, or the hope. I felt the tickle of a million butterflies land in my sun-kissed arms as Perry walked towards me. A million butterflies took flight, raising every hair in my arms, flying through every vein, running up every muscle. I felt the air from my nostrils as I panted, tickling my top lip, creating my smile. In my head, I leant over the wall of a castle and I used both hands to heave out my pain. From the castle gates, I emerged as me. With my eyes, I saw Perry, but with my heart, I saw hope, and that's what strangled my breath in my throat. The hope of her delicate fingers curled around my neck as she pulled me closer for an embrace. The hope that one day I might wake up next to her and know that, in my heart, a million butterflies might land and pull me apart with love when I flew away. Because love is a butterfly explosion. It's not meant to be a tepid shower or a month where a bruised ego sulks. It's the all or nothing of the soul. And when it's nothing, it's easy to let go. There is actually a myth in the story, which is ghosts, but you don't actually get to that, and I've kind of spoiled it now. So
I was going to say, because my question was, your myth is ghosts, but it kind of didn't get to
it. It
that
didn't
bit,
get to that because it was a really long passage. But does anybody here believe in ghosts? Put up your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 in 3 people are supposed to believe in ghosts, so that's probably quite a correct representation. So why do people believe in ghosts? You know, it's like there isn't any definitive proof. Is it because we're scared of dying? Is it because we want to get a message from somebody who's passed over? Or is it comfort?
The knowing is about paranormal.
As a psychic who gets messages from the dead, yeah. So it's quite. I find it. I don't know whether I believe or not, but I find it quite an interesting topic because there's so much there that you can explore. I think. And,
But not in your next novel, which is about a Tesco wagon.
that's correct. There's no supernatural phenomena in that at all. So, and I've got a ghost joke. Which I was like, I've got to talk about myths, I'm going to Google it. So a skeleton walks into a bar and he goes, I'll have a pint and a mop. And I'm finished.
We're going to kick the second half off with Claire reading your short story. Yay!
So the short story is called Once Upon a Caravan, and it's also in the anthology Hell is Raw. When David had first mooted the idea of a caravan holiday, Stella hadn't been keen. Holidays to her had to be luxurious, soft pillows, crisp sheets, relentless sunshine. She wasn't interested in full-mitre tables and foam-covered seats, yet here she was, in North Yorkshire, in a caravan park. Clearly, without her knowledge, she turned into a walking lesbian cliché. It's not a caravan park, it's a luxury holiday park, David had stated on their way in. Look, it says so on the sign. He leaned over and popped a travel mint in his mouth before adding, it's even got a Starbucks. Stella had tried to conjure up her impressed face, but found she'd mislaid it on the drive. David approached the car now. He put on a bit of weight in the last couple of months, but he still had an impressive head of hair for a man in his late 40s. She was sure there had to be a caravan-loving woman out there who could make her brother happy. David smiled and waved as he got nearer. There was no escape now. He opened the door to his red Fiesta and sat down, rubbing his hands together as he spoke. Right, we're number 54. It's over towards the far right, and guess what? His face shone with excitement. This, after all, was David's Disneyland. What? She asked. I upgraded us, he said, and he sat back to bask in his upgraded glory. Isn't that great? Stella considered his question. Does it mean we get greeted at the door with champagne? Stella stared straight ahead as they set off down the road. To their left, the cliff stopped abruptly, leading down to miles of oak-coloured sand, the sea sparkling like a field of diamonds under the early afternoon sun. It was certainly a step up from the caravan holidays of her youth, but it still wasn't Valencia, Stella's destination of choice. She and Alex had spoken of going last year, but they were unlikely to ever go now. So she said yes to David, and the flip of a coin had decided their holiday fate. Racing North Yorkshire it was. Stella closed her eyes and conjured visions of tapas, sun-kissed streets, ice-cold beers on sunny piazzas, but at least there was a Starbucks. David swung the car neatly into the space next to the grey Range Rover and tugged on the handbrake. I think it's that one, he said, pointing. His door was open and he was trying not to run. Stella swore lightly as she got out of the car, smoothing down her blue and white striped top, tucking her curls behind her ears. And then there was David, hanging out of the caravan door, features animated beyond his control. Oh my God, you have to see this, he said, shaking his head. Everything is so small! He was yelping now. She followed him in, and she had to agree, everything was so small. And she imagined how much larger everything was in Valencia. Sunnier, hotter, improved. I'm going to make a cuppa, you want one, he asked. But Stella was barely aware of him now. The rushing had taken over in her head and she didn't know how to stop him. She saw Alex in every surface, saw her outline in the veins on the back of her hands. Her body ached for as she sat on the caravan-sized sofa. Stella, Stella. David's voice was fizzing around her. Sweetheart, it's okay, you're fine, I'm here. His green eyes were wide in front of her, his face a question mark of concern. It's just a bit stuffy in here. I think I need to get some air, she said. Stella stood up with his help and walked slowly to the open door, feeling the cooling sea breeze as she put one foot onto the corrugated iron step. "I'll put the kettle on," David said, turning back inside before stopping. He clicked his fingers together. "We don't have any milk." Stella held up her hand. "I'll go, there must be a shop here." It was good to be out of the fresh air, out of the car, out of the caravan, with room to breathe, and she passed some recycling bins on her way to the cliff top, taking in the coastal views that spread out on both sides for miles. She should have put a cardigan on. She drank in the majesty of the views and pondered how ironic it was that she was in Yorkshire, but without Alex. Alex had loved to walk, probably still did, assuming she was still alive. Over the years, Stella had maintained it was healthy to have separate interests and not live in each other's pockets. So Alex had walked alone or with friends, until the day her walking had taken over completely and she'd started and never looked back, leaving Stella and their entire life behind after 7 years together. 6 months and still not a word. Stella shivered as she turned from the cliff top, crossing her arms in front of her body to shield herself from the elements. She almost walked straight into two older lesbians, clad in purple and green outdoor wear, sturdy boots, walking sticks, and rucksacks. They smiled and gave her a knowing look, which she returned. Did they know where Alex was? She walked briskly now, back across the road, through the maze of caravans, and within minutes she was spat out onto the central concourse that held the park office and, yes, the promised Starbucks. Stella walked around the massive families and into the cooling air conditioning of the mini-market. A bakery section lured her in with its tempting smell, and she grabbed 2 Danish pastries as a holiday treat. Then she set off round the shop, clutching a dented wire basket, the beginnings of a headache forming in her brain. She kept having to remind herself that she was on holiday and that this was fun. Stella was pondering an on-offer Pinot Grigio that might take the edge off the evening when she noticed the attractive woman. Stella loved feet, and this woman's were foot model good. Pearl nails, atop smooth tan skin. Stella gulped as she stood next to the woman, still peering at the wine selection, but taking in her scent as she did. Then the woman turned suddenly, completely unaware of Stella's presence, and lifted a wine bottle, smack into Stella's bent head, smack into her cheekbone. There was a crack, and Stella snapped backwards, along with her body. She staggered sideways into a stocky man, bouncing off him with ease, but being terribly British, she mumbled an apology, clutching the side of her face with one hand, still gripping a basket with the other. Was this all part of the shopping experience in caravan parks? She was sure it didn't happen in Valencia. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The woman's face was plastered with concern as she squinted at Stella. "Are you hurt? It sounded like it hurt. It was my fault, I wasn't looking where I was going." Stella was nodding her head, even though it was throbbing and it hurt to do so. She straightened up and gingerly lifted her hand from her eye. It felt like it had swollen to the size of one of the smaller caravans. "God, you're bleeding," the woman said. Her voice was low, bass-like. She replaced her wine in the chiller cabinet and took a pack of tissues from the bag slung over her shoulder, offering a handful to Stella. Then the woman reached down and removed the basket Stella was holding. "Wait here," she said. "I'll be back." Stella peered out of her good eye and saw the woman at the cash desk. She was wearing denim shorts and a red top, and her arms were as tanned as her feet. The woman had that bronze look about her that comes from fresh air, hard work and contentment. Perhaps she was a lifeguard or a gardener. Stella had always quite fancied dating a gardener. She blamed Charlie Dimmock. The woman approached her now, looking concerned, sweeping her brown hair off her face even though it hadn't moved. Nervous habit, Stella noticed. "Right," the woman said. "How about you come back to my caravan? It's just round the corner. I'll make you a cup of tea and clean you up. Sound like a plan?" Stella was shivering from shock and the thought of tea was warming. She nodded and allowed the woman to steer her out of the shop, around the concourse, over towards a baby blue caravan that looked twice the size of theirs and, in fact, was. Inside there was a breakfast bar, a giant, distinctly young caravan-like sofa, and a plush kitchen that sparkled with wealth. "Sit, please," the woman said, easing Stella onto the sofa with the small of her hand on the small of her back and one on her elbow. The physical contact was pleasurable to Stella's abandoned body, and she jolted from it, her eyes meeting the woman's as she sat. The moment hung in the air, and the woman knelt before her, easing the tissues out of her hand. Stella winced at the stain of red and white. The woman cupped her chin softly and Stella swallowed hard, feeling a pang of desire zap down her body. She willed herself to hold it together and not become a cliché, falling apart in front of the first attractive woman to touch her since Alex. It's not too bad. It's hopefully just a bruise, she said, and you've stopped bleeding. Does your cheekbone feel okay? Stella took in the fine hairs on the woman's face, the pink rouge of her lips. She put her hand up to her cheek and felt along the bone. It's a bit sore, but not broken, I don't think. She exhaled. I'm Stella, by the way. Casey, the woman replied. Casey pushed herself up off her tan thighs and walked to the kitchen. Let me make you that tea, restorative power tea. She filled the kettle, its noise polluting limited caravan air. So is this your party trick to pick up women? Stella asked. She swiveled her head towards the kitchen. Casey gave her a smile of recognition. I'm usually a bit more old-fashioned about these things, she said, but this clearly works just as well.
Okay, so holidaying in caravan park seems to be quite a theme for lesbians, but I've either got a really shit gaydar or like, I've just not gone on one where lesbians have been, so unlucky or shit gaydar. Is this based on experience?
No, it's not.
No.
I'm a bit allergic to camping and caravans, but I went on my sister's hen weekend in June, and we hired a fantastic big house with a hot tub and its own pool table and its own bar, and we had a whole weekend there, and it was adjoining to a caravan park, and it did have a Starbucks and a spa, and so we had a look at the caravans. Yeah, no, we had a look in the caravans, and we were amazed at how much how quite cool they were. But we still would prefer to stay in our house with the hot tub and its own bars. And I think my wife would kill me if we went caravanning. Been caravan?
I think actually I have. Been in one of those big static caravans in Wales, and it was either that or go on a boat to France. So I went to Wales because I don't like water, and it was great. I loved it.
But that was obviously partly based on my real life experience. Do you base any of your characters or stories on real life experience?
But not one of the ghosts, because I haven't met any. The ones with lesbians, yeah.
My story is based on, might be based on Naomi and I getting together, actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So is the novel going to be not going to be
No, actually that's going to stay the short story. I just need to get it out onto paper. So I think it's just enough for a short story, and it can probably be put away.
So now it's my great pleasure to introduce Angela Peach. She's the author of 4 lesbian novels, The Blurring, Inflection 47, and the international #1 smash hit, Playing My Love. And we've said it #1 longer than and Wet put together.
Really?
Yeah. And Angela's story is a bit racy, so we've got something a bit racy to finish off. Angela.
Okay, I actually wrote 2 stories because the one I did write for the anthology, this one was more fun to read out, so this is the only copy of it, but I thought it'd be more in theme with the myths and legends, so yeah, I thought I'd read this one. It's called Following My Sister's Footsteps. I walk with false confidence along the damp streets, quick shallow breaths of the murky metallic air failing to satisfy my adrenaline-racked body. I'd been pumping this route now for the last few months, every Saturday night, hoping they'd take the bait, like they took my sister. My lips tightened. I shouldn't have thought of her. I need to save my anger and utilise it. For now, I need to stay in character and play the vulnerable young lady. I smirk to myself as I think what my hidden arsenal of weapons will do to them. I repeat Cleo's name to them over and over again. Because she hadn't deserved to die, and she definitely hadn't deserved to be mutilated and dumped. My beautiful, innocent baby sister. Puncture wounds covering her entire body, piercing all her major arteries, and the cause of the extensive blood loss and probably the main cause of her death. She was the third young girl to be taken from this street and killed in this way in the last year. I'm going to give it another 45 minutes before I head back home. Hey! Startled, I stumbled and reached out to balance myself. A hand grips it, righting me. I hadn't heard anyone approach, nor seen anyone in the shadows, and this scares me. I had been ultra vigilant, or so I thought. It takes a split second for me to register that the voice had been female. Jesus, you scared me. What are you doing out here? Gripping my hand is a woman in her late 30s and utterly captivating. She smiles and tilts her head. I could ask you the same thing. Every Saturday night I watch you walk up and down this road looking all sexy and mysterious. You don't look like a prostitute. Her voice trails up questioningly as she waits for me to confirm or deny, but I'm unable to do either. Even in the low light, I can see her eyes are a deep indigo and totally magnetic. She has short black hair with a fringe hanging down low, and she carries an air of sophistication and extreme sex appeal. I've already forgotten the question. Well, if you are a prostitute, you're not a very good one, so you're supposed to let people pick you up. Come and have a drink. She tugs on my hand, still in her hand, and I follow before I remember why I'm here, and try to offer resistance, but there is none. I think it's closed, I sputter, seeing the bar we're about to enter. Yes, it is. It's my bar, and for you, it's very much open. She winks at me. I hesitate, not because I don't want to go in with her, but because all of a sudden I want nothing more than to go in with her. Okay, I suppose one won't hurt, I concede. She looks amused, as if I'd have no choice in the matter. Take a seat and make yourself comfortable. I get us a drink. I watch her glide away, admiring her curves and tight leather trousers. There's a sexy boyishness that complements her femininity, and I can feel my pulse racing. I admit I'm feeling powerfully attracted to this lady. Maybe she'll be a welcome distraction from everything. I look around the bar and notice the decor for the first time since entering. It's very dark but elegant at the same time, a little bit like my hostess. Even the tables aren't typical of bars in this area, looking like they singularly cost more than most people make in a week. I slide into one of the booths, and just as some French jazz starts to play softly from the speakers, and I turn in time to see her join me at the table. That was quick, I say, observing the expensive bottle of red wine. I had it prepared before I came out to get you. Her confidence makes my pulse race faster. She bites her lips seductively and leans forward to pass me my glass, giving me a wonderful view of her breasts. It's impossible to stop my eyes flickering south. I take the glass and she slides next to me. The heat from her leather-clad legs almost electrifies me, and I clutch my empty glass to stop myself from touching them. So what's your name? I ask, hearing a slight tremor in my voice. From the way her eyes flash darker, she's heard it too. The sexual energy emanating from this stranger is phenomenal. I've only been in her presence for a few minutes, and I'm not one that believes in instant chemistry or love at first sight, so already I'm questioning why my pupils are dilating at the mere thought of her lips on my neck, or why there's intense heat flooding into my pants just from being inches away from her. Rose, I hope you like red wine. Yes, I do. My name's Theo. Theo? What an unusual name. Reminds me of a girl who came here a while back. Cleo, I think her name was. My hand jolts and I place a drink on the table. Nonplussed, Rose pours her own before languidly reclining back and taking a sip. She came in here? Yes. Now I'm confused. Why didn't you tell the police? This bar wasn't in the detailed list of places she visited that night. They never asked. How's your wine? I stare at her. It's almost as if she's daring me to challenge her. I grab at the glass and take a long slug. It's actually a fantastic wine, light, fruity and warming as it flows down. And I'm surprised, having expected a heavy rounded wine. Look, I don't understand. Why didn't you come forward when the police were appealing for witnesses for anyone who'd seen her that night? Her fingernail taps against the crystal, creating a gentle ringing tone the gaze intensifies. Do you think I had anything to do with her death? No. Well, obviously I've only just met you, but the police knowing she'd been in here would have made no difference to her investigation. She came in, stayed for a few drinks, and left alone. The bar was almost empty, she chatted to no one but me, and no one left after her. Rose interrupts, speaking firmly but softly. Her voice is hypnotic and I feel my anger simply melt away. Would you like to know what we talked about? Sure. Rose shifts closer and I gasp, taking another gulp of the amazing wine to mask it. She wanted some advice. She'd been asked by a friend to participate in the threesome. She wanted to know if I thought it was worth risking her friendship for. I said yes. I told her she should just embrace every opportunity life throws at her. Sadly, she didn't get that chance. My breathing was ragged, but surprisingly not from the topic of the conversation. It's taking everything I have not to lean forward and take a chance myself. I've never felt such a magnetic pull from anyone before, and I'm close to just closing my eyes and acquiescing to it. What about you? Do you embrace some opportunities? Yes. I can feel her warm breath on me, my lips part and my juices flow. How far are you willing to go, Theo? Her hand finds my thigh and I actually groan aloud. She smirks. Oh, I think you'd go all the way. Yes. I feel my legs melt open for her, knowing my inhibitions are far behind. I've never wanted someone this badly before. Please, I beg, feeling ashamed for doing so. I bet you want me to take you right here, on this table. Her voice is lowered and is husky as my eyes roll in their sockets at the mere suggestion of her taking me anywhere. Finish your wine, there's a good girl. I knock back the remnants of my glass, feeling more drunk than I should. Or maybe I was trying to make excuses for my suddenly absent morals. I was normally the one taking charge in sexual encounters, and being submissive simply wasn't in my nature. In one swift move, she pushes my face down to the table, and I drop the glass in shock, hearing the crystal shatter on the floor. She puts her mouth to my ear. Are you willing to let me do whatever I want? Oh God, yes! The words leave my mouth before I can stop them, and I'm rewarded with her lips grazing my earlobe. It's torture. It's incredible. Her hand has found its way to my clit, but in the position she has me in, I can't push onto it. You give me full permission to do whatever I want. She sounds amused, but I don't care. The pleasure she is giving me is more intense than anything I've ever experienced before. Hell, I'd agree to just about anything right now. But then she moves away and takes pleasure with her. I gulp heavily, pushing myself shakily up as I try to regain some of my composure. Rose has stood and is staring hungrily down at me, and the humour has gone. Stand up and take off your clothes, she demands. I fumble out of the booth and remove my vest, skirt and underwear. She doesn't look surprised at the knife that had been strapped to my inner thigh. Her eyes stay focused on mine, and this feels more erotic than thinking of devouring my body. Get on the table. I patch my arse on the table and scooch back, admiring how soft the wood feels against my bare skin. Rose hits her arms under my knees, and in one swift move has me on my back. She climbs onto the table, crawling until she's pressed hard against me. I'm going to hurt you. You're going to beg me not to stop. In fact, you're going to beg me for more. But first, how about I warm you up a little? Rough sex is normally a massive turn-on for me, but her words send zings of excitement through me. Then her hand is between my legs, and my jaw drops open as she finally gives me what I've been aching for. I straighten my neck forward to try and kiss her, but she holds herself just out of reach. I'm flying with exquisite joy, all of my blood pulsing and taking me higher, higher and higher. Whatever it is she's doing is blowing my mind, and I can practically feel my consciousness slipping further and further away in a haze of absolute bliss. She uses her free hand to push against my neck, restricting my airflow while she stares intently into my eyes, getting off on my feeble struggle to breathe mixed with my rising screams towards euphoria. It doesn't take long for her to build me to a climax, and I'm crying out, wailing even, as the orgasm bursts through me in a way that almost makes my entire body shake. It lasts so long, I almost want it to stop. Almost. And then she kisses me, a deep, devouring kiss. I'm so enraptured, I've forgotten her promise to hurt me. But then her teeth find purchase on my lower lip, and she bites hard. I cry out again in pain this time. Now that my libido has been satiated, I'm ready to bypass the hurting stuff, but Rose doesn't seem to think so. Put your arms above your head and keep them there until I say so. My eyes widen with fear, but the excitement starts to grow again. I raise my arms into position. Good girl. Her eyes scope down my naked body, and I can feel her gaze as tangible as her tongue making its way down. Rose, shut up! You won't speak again until I'm done, understand? I nod quickly. Satisfied, she smiles before lowering her mouth to my neck and suckling on it. I'm tense, knowing she intends to cause pain as well as pleasure, but even so, it's intensely wonderful. I rise beneath her, aware of the acute wetness beneath my arse. Did all that come from me? Sure, I've been wet before, but never this wet. Her mouth moves down to my nipple, and as she casts her eyes up to mine, I barely have time to brace myself, knowing it's because she wants to see my reaction. I scream as she bites hard, pulling back to stretch it away from my body. Her smile stretches wide, as she bites and nips her way down my midriff, causing me to jump and cry out with her varying intensities. But instead of going to my clit, she goes to my inner thigh instead. She nuzzles the skin there while she licks and kisses, but then there's an excruciating pain as her teeth clamp into my thigh. And when I say into, I mean I actually feel the teeth pierce the skin. Yes, it fucking hurts. But yes, there's a bigger part of me that's perversely enjoying this. I whimper as Rose starts sucking deep and hard to get the blood flowing into her mouth. Her nerves grip my thighs, flexing each draw from me. She's making small noises, and I take pleasure from her pleasure, feeling almost orgasmic again, despite there being no sexual contact. When she's drunk her fill, she reaches for the bottle of wine. Still gasping for air, I watch her pour red liquid into her mouth, which is still full of my red fluid, before she leans forward. Understanding, I open my mouth wide and accept the offering. It spills out down my chin, and still it comes, so I'm in awe of how much she was able to hold. I gulp and guzzle to keep up the influx of metallic wine, feeding from her eyes as well as her mouth. Eventually her lips lock onto mine, and she sucks stray juices from my tongue. And I kiss her back eagerly and desperately. Dear, you taste so much better than your sister, she murmurs, resting her forehead against mine. Inside me, something ignites. I know I should be angry, but my head's light and fuzzy. What the fuck was in that wine? I feel like I've been drugged. Rose gets up and disappears for a while. I don't attempt to dress or leave, although I'm certainly completely incapable of doing either. My arms are still stupidly in position above my head as instructed. When she returns, I'm able to drunkenly squint through my eyelids. She scoops me up in her arms and carries me through the bar. I think briefly about the discarded knife next to my underwear, a small pistol I'd have in my bag, a razor blades in my purse, all useless to me now. But even if I were to get to them, what would I have done? My mind and free will are being consumed by a fog of irrational love for her, and I submit my entire being, my fucking soul, completely, happily and totally. She kisses my neck gently. I'm going to take my time with you. I had intended draining you the same way I drained Cleo, but I actually like you a lot. I think we can have a lot of fun together. If you're lucky, if you're good, I'll turn you and keep you. But until then, you're going to be my slave. You keep me happy in whatever way I want, whether I want to beat you, leave from you, or have you fuck me till you drop from exhaustion. You'll do it all without question. I hear the words and wonder if the fuzziness is clouding my mind as a result of how hypnotising me. I know I should be putting up a struggle, but the thought of being a slave to this sort of stranger is all I want now. To please her, to make her happy in the way she chooses. I cling weakly to her neck, with my arms like leaden spaghetti, and smile as the sexy vampire takes me to her dungeon, where I know I'll do everything and anything she says for the rest of my life.
Have you got a favourite one?
I actually do. Gemma Arterton in Byzantium. She's like my favourite lesbian vampire. Well, she's not a lesbian, but I wish she was. In my head, she's a lesbian vampire.
Not Pam from True Blood.
Oh my god, the whole cast of True Blood, I do it in a heartbeat. True Blood is just like a massive porn that is just amazing. So, but you know, there was a lot of lesbian films when I was younger that were kind of sexy, like Lost Boys, Near Dark, Fright Night. So, and then Buffy came along, and it made it cool.
What about you? Have you got do you enjoy vampire stories? Yeah. Do you have a favourite one?
I'm a big Buffy fan. And Evil Willow. Got to be one of the
Evil Willow.
Evil Willow is the best lesbians. Best lesbian vampires of all time. Well, Vampire Willow, I mean, Evil Willow, okay.
I don't watch
Probably just Bram Stoker's original Dracula. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I've been to Whitby. That's the place I've got to.
I take it yours isn't based on anything that's happened to you.
have a central character that's a lesbian, or do any of you do like random things in other genres that don't have any queer?
Well, yeah, I've written 2 books and all the central characters are lesbians, but in the first book I had quite a lot of straight characters as well roaming about. Second book didn't have any.
Which was more fun to write?
Oh, I enjoyed writing both. Different, very different books, but I think it's kind of got to reflect real life as well. And I think nobody's life is made up of everybody's got all different sexualities and lesbians. But I think if you're going to write lesbian fiction, you pretty much got to have a central character that's lesbian. Otherwise, it's a little bit rubbish.
It's just not that genre.
Yeah, so my characters aren't all lesbians. Just go.
Surely, I mean, as we in normal life have a straight family members, our friends and that, so be it in the actual books as well. The lesbians in the books will have family and friends who are straight.
I mean, my characters just happen to be lesbians. They don't go through a whole coming out thing. They're just, going through a story, and they happen to be. Because I am.
Yeah, I think
That's what I want to write about.
I think it's really important that we write really strong, powerful lesbian and bi characters. I think we still need to strengthen our visibility in literature and be proud that we want to put our characters at the centre of fiction because no one else is doing it, so we need to.
Very much.
Anyone else?
What's the, recently we've had lots of anthologies coming out. I mean, is it sort of the latest thing that people like to collaborate with other authors to make anthologies, or is it just by coincidence? Because we have Halloween,
I haven't seen any.
Well, there's a food anthology out with Halloween anthology, just 2 that have been out in the last few weeks.
Did you hear that question? No. And he was just asking if it's a coincidence that there's lots of anthologies coming out in the lesbian fiction world at the moment. And is it a thing?
I think it is a coincidence because Kiki Archer and I have this plan since like April, May. So it's just taken us this long to get all the stories in and edited and to a point where it's and the cover.
Maybe it's more that the short stories making a bit of a comeback and that there's more of an appetite for short stories, and that's something that again we should celebrate because it's been such a neglected art form for such a long time. It's actually really positive to see lots of different kinds of anthologies. Stella Duffy this year, she's just released a collection of her short stories for the past 20 years. So maybe it's making a comeback as an art form. We should embrace
Well,
that.
I think ours is the only charity one. So
Everybody's
everyone's contributed. I mean, yeah, all of the people who have contributed, they're not getting free copies, but they're buying their own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you said you're giving them out as Christmas presents as well.
Definitely, gifting down.
So yeah, if everyone wants to download and help towards the charity, it would be great. Charity.
Well, the thing that what you said at the start of the evening as well was that you were inspired by the L project when people came together to collaborate and bring their own skills to a combined effort for charity as well as a bit of an inspiration.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice way to introduce Ellie's school.
Okay, is that everything? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and let's go to the bar.